Everybody, video here for you today. Now I'm having some coffee, talking in the morning. I will get this uploaded a little later today. But about once a week, I like to do a mound builder video. So that way my list might be completed by the year 2035. Today, well, I've talked about mounds, ancient mound sites being way out in the middle of nowhere, also in the middle of neighborhoods. We are going down to Jacksonville, Florida today. This is Colony Cove right here, Newcastle Island. This is Quarantine Island. I guess that's what they call it out here, St. John's River. Right down here, though, there is a mound site right on the shore here, a very impressive mound for Florida. Let's just take a look and do a little reading. Right on the shore of Mill Cove right here, this is the site, what they called Grant Mound right here. You notice that house right there is built up higher. Well, this was built on a very impressive mound site here. You can see it right down here coming up. The roof of the house next to it is built into the mound. Here's a website. I will leave the link below. JaxpsychoGeo. He does lost stories from around the Jacksonville area. I found this Dead End at Grant Mound, written by Tim Gilmore here in 2017. As soon as I read this, I knew I'd be sharing. This was a good article. I was very interested. It goes over a lot of stuff. I'm just going to share some of it here, but I will leave the link below. It says the road takes me past large suburban tract houses onto the cul-de-sac, built into the burial mound. Centuries of burials, Timucuan Indians raised the earth at this sacred site. I try not to wince at the street sign that warns me this road's a dead end, dead ends at Grant Mound. Here's a drawing of the large mound done in 1895 by Clarence Moore. And I might have mentioned him in another Florida video, but he was interested in archaeology back around the turn of the century, back around 1900. It says, though the house stands 3 stories tall, its horizontal emphasis lends it a look of fitting the hill, the bluff, the mound it tops. The brick house beside it tries to bury itself in the hill. Perhaps it's ashamed, it should be. The house burrows into a mound of the dead. Its builders bulldozed and removed human remains and pottery shards and centuries of Indian artifacts and tribal earth for the land for this ordinary suburban house. You could walk from the top of the burial mound in the backyard of the larger house to the roof of the house built into the burial mound, right down here. It says horror novels and films that use the trope of tribal spirits seeking revenge on houses built on Indian burial grounds comes instantly to mind. Poltergeist, the Amityville Horror, Pet Cemetery are a few of the movies mentioned here, but it's a good thing Clarence Moore made a pretty good drawing of this mound so we know what once was here. He did this about 135 years ago. In the pestilential and insectile summers of 1894 and 1895, archaeologist Clarence B. Moore dug into the Grant Mound and found numerous human burials. Moore also found objects suggesting trade with different Indian tribes in sophisticated settlements like Cahokia, a pre-Columbian city near St. Louis, and we're all familiar with that, and the Spiro Mound settlement in Oklahoma. From Grant Mound and neighboring Shields Mound, Moore excavated 147 polished stone blades called celts, chipstone tools, shell drinking cups, and pearls and shell beads, and pottery vessels and stone beads, and 2 long-nosed god mascots. I have talked about extensive trade networks in ancient America, but here people in the present-day Jacksonville area doing trade with people in present-day Oklahoma and Cahokia up there by St. Louis. That's pretty impressive. It says, Grant's Mound, copper long-nosed god faces seem to correlate to the mythical figure known as he who wears human heads as earrings, a warrior deity in Ho-Chunk or Winnebago and Iowa tribal cosmology whom Earthmaker sent to make the earth safe for that creation least likely to survive, human beings. His earrings were living human heads that winked and made comic and grotesque faces when people stared at them, tricksters that caused the wearer to fail his mission. Archaeologists have found these god mascots made 1,000 years ago of bone, shell, and copper in Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, and other states. 7 pairs have been found around the country, including the copper pair, more found at the Grant Mound. These copper artifacts are very interesting, and copper was found all over these ancient American mound sites. Were they getting their copper from the Lake Superior area? That's a very good question, and I'll have a video on that sometime in the future, I think. It says scholars believe the masquettes were manufactured at Cahokia, so their presence at Grant Mound indicates a wide-ranging circuit of trade between tribes across the continent. Here is LiDAR of the area here, and here is just the edge, I guess. The only thing remaining on the mound is just this one edge, but here, this is where it existed. It says, far older finds suggest that the Timucuan people were trading materials across the southeast as far back as 4,500 to 5,000 years ago. A half circle of soapstone used to heat water after being heated from a central fire dates to 2,500 to 3,000 BC. Since the nearest source for this material is Soapstone Ridge, southeast of today's Atlanta, it seems that these people were trading across vast distances as early as 5,000 years ago. A guy by the name of Keith Ashley from the University of North Florida wrote a paper, The Mill Cove Complex, and that's the name of this whole grouping of mounds in this one area here. It says, of 1988 archaeological studies at the site, said the area immediately south and southwest of Grant Mound was not inspected due to cul-de-sac construction and landowner refusal, respectively. Mr. Ashley writes, the northern faces of the high sand ridges that front the river are exposed as steep bluffs that in the area rise some 52 feet above the water, referring to the two principal Timucuan Indian archaeological site in what's now called the Mill Cove Complex. I think that the Shields Mound, is right down here. It says Keith Ashley is wiry and energetic. He moves rapidly around the lab as he talks. He has a sense of this work being sacred, not in a spiritual sense, but in a human sense. Though the Timucua were wiped out by illness and Spanish acculturation centuries ago, he says he has a great love and respect for the people I study. This is a pretty good article, and I will leave the link below, but that design right there, I've seen that on other mound sites I've done videos on. This right here is an engraved deer bone found right nearby. It says, while it's far from certain what this ancient image might mean, Southeastern tribes today commonly see existence split into three worlds. Ours, the world beneath the water and the sky, held together by four cords. Such worlds are frequently represented as eyes. Here are some of the many artifacts that were found at the mound site here. The guy who built here, well, his daughter told the author of this story that he wanted the University of North Florida to do archaeological work at the site because he did not want any bad juju. Said her mother said they only found broken pottery bits and that was it up there. But in the lab at the University of North Florida, it is stated and it is well known that he did not want any archaeological work done at all. It says these hills have their secrets. These hills are no mere hills. The tallest natural formations rising from the river, mass ancient forms of human architecture. This was a good one to do for my Ancient America series, Lost History. That's what a lot of these videos are all about. This place was thriving about 1,100 years ago, but there's evidence the history here goes back a lot further back in time, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 years. The woman said that just a bunch of pottery fragments were found here, no big deal. That seemed kind of dismissive. But it says here, windows are for seeing through from the inside. The act of seeing from the outside, what or who might seek evasion, occurs as an inversion, unnatural, something that should not be. So certainly is building your place of living atop somebody else's dead. Up until a few days ago, I'd only heard of the Grant Mound by name, but thanks to a drawing here, 1895, at least we have a little bit of a guess what it looked like here. That's why I want to do this video, Lost History. That is a video on the Grant Mound, part of the Mill Cove complex. Now, I am not the one who removed this ancient mound, desecrated the sacred site. I am just the one trying to give an ancient site some historical context because ancient history is for us all. We all have a right to, know what happened in the past. That's Jacksonville, Florida, the Grant Mound. Hope you thought that was interesting. You all have a very safe day.